The much-anticipated matchup between the front-runner for the MVP race, Tua Tagovailoa. After 3 games, he was the leading MVP candidate, and the Dolphins taking on the Bills. Now, I don't know if you saw this game, much build-up for this, big deal, kind of a big matchup, and got a lot of attention going into the weekend. Josh Allen threw not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdown passes. He ran for a score, and Buffalo ended up taking Miami to the woodshed, and they win this game, not even close. 28-point win for Buffalo. The final score, 48-20. The Bills a small favorite at home. This comes a week after Miami had one of the biggest wins in NFL history, margin-wise. They won a game by 50 points. It's believed the first time ever a team's won by 50 one week and then lost by 28 the next. Of course, it's easy to look up. Not that many teams ever win by 50 points in the NFL. So the Bills, they're 3-1. The Dolphins are 3-1. But Buffalo, based on the head-to-head, they are now in the catbird seat in the AFC East. So the Bills Mafia on top. Stephon Diggs catching a big day on the stat sheet. He had not 1, not 2, 3 touchdowns. He had 6 catches for 120 yards. And Josh Allen, over 300 yards passing. He only had 4 incompletions against that soft Miami defense. And Josh Allen, 4 passing touchdowns as the Buffalo Bills get the win. So let us discuss the question on this one. Who gets the blame fish taco? Who gets the blame fish taco for the Dolphins as they go down, and they go down big in Buffalo? So I've got Irish Spring, Unicorns, and Jim Mora. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make checkmate, which is what the Miami Dolphins suffered. They suffered a checkmate loss at the hands of the Buffalo Bills, Buffalo getting the win big. So number one. Yes, Tua Tagovailoa had all the charisma. He had all the confidence coming in. But let's start with him. His numbers were not particularly amazing. In fact, they were not horrific. They were kind of like an old Tua performance of the past. He was, as we mentioned, the MVP frontrunner coming into this game. He is no longer the frontrunner for the MVP after this game. 3 weeks of goodness, and does one bad performance wash it all away? Tua lost a fair amount of swagger. The belief that Tua had turned things upside down on the perception of him, that he was a totally different player than he had been. Now, that kind of looked like the old Tua. Not kind of, it did. That looked like the Tua that we've seen, where he's kind of not particularly great. And all the noise about how wonderful things had been there, the jiu-jitsu training for Tua, and he was going to avoid getting tackled from opposing defensive players and getting sacked at all. Well, without perfect protection, Tua looked like the same Tua. He didn't look any different, right? And you're not going to play playoff games, big games against good teams, having everything go perfect. That's not how it works. You're going to have to succeed when there is pressure on you, and so this is a problem. Like, this is what we call an Irish Spring type of game, because there was a lot of stinky for the Miami Dolphins, that fishy smell. And outside of the quarterback, Miami, they did move the ball pretty well, but their defense, holy cannoli, man. What the heck was that? The Dolphins also were sloppy. They had 8 penalties for 98 yards, 4 fumbles. One of them lost, so they recovered 3 of the 4 fumbles. They had the interception. The defense gave up 6 touchdowns to the Buffalo Bills, 48 points. They were in the dog doo-doo throughout the afternoon there. Now, on the other side, are Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills now the best team in the NFL? Well, the legal definition of the term best means as good as all the rest. So, yes, the Buffalo Bills are, by the legal definition, as good as every other team in the NFL. Now, most people perceive the term best as better than other teams in the NFL. Do I have Buffalo better than every other team in the NFL based on this performance? No. I don't. Why? I live in the real world, okay? I'm not going to sit here and be a prisoner of the moment. Was it a fine performance by the Bills? Yes. Did I expect Buffalo to win this game by 4 touchdowns over Miami? No, I did not. But I look at the Bills and I see the same issues are going to pop up for Buffalo, and they're going to have to prove that they're able to overcome those issues. I look at this team. The Buffalo Bills are designed for warm weather, like a SoCal warm weather dome team. That they are not the kind of team that is going to be able to matriculate the ball up and down the field with ease when the weather turns nasty. So it's this weird thing here in Buffalo where you're trying to win as many games as you can to get home field advantage, but then that's actually disadvantage for you if you play at home and there's a lake effect blizzard and you're out there trying to throw the ball with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and the weather's terrible and you're screwed. And so that's a reality that Buffalo's going to have to prove. They have to validate that they can win those games, bad weather games, because they're not built like a bad weather team. And it's reminiscent. The Bills, when they had great teams, if you're old, then you remember when they had Jim Kelly and Andre Reed and Thurman Thomas, they were also built like a dome team. But they were at least able to get through the playoffs in the AFC, and then they'd get to the Super Bowl, and they'd take a ride on the Vomit Comet. They couldn't even remember their helmet, some of those guys, when they got to the Super Bowl. So you've got that. But then you look around, Bills Mafia right now seeing rainbows and, at night and unicorns flying through the sky. It's just wonderful, those beautiful unicorns that they're seeing. But I will be the voice of reason. Now, if you ask me right now who's the top team in the NFL, I will tell you it's the 49ers. They're the number one team in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers with Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, the defense. They got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That's the top team. And if you look around the NFC, the Cowboys are frauds. They're not legit. The Eagles are good, but the 49ers are believable. They're better than the Eagles. So what? That'll be proven out on the field. I will find out when they play down the line if they do match up, if both teams get to a hypothetical matchup in the NFC playoffs. We'll find out about that. But the 49ers are the top team on Big Ben's big board, which is really the only board that matters. Big Ben's big board. Can Josh Allen play mistake-free football long enough when it matters? Right? Can he do that? Probably not. Is Stephon Diggs going to be able to avoid a hissy fit meltdown when things don't go right for the Bills? It's fine to celebrate and pour beer on Bills Mafia when you're winning and you're having a fine time and all that, but we've seen how he handles adversity, and your true colors are shown under adversity, and he sulks. He sulks there on the sidelines and leaves the stadium early, has a hissy fit at training camp. He's a diva, and all that. So there are still issues there, and we'll see if the Bills can overcome those. And I would keep an eye on Jacksonville next week as they will match up with the Bills, who are going to have their ass kissed. They've already had their ass kissed by the Bills Mafia, and that will continue throughout the week. And by the time they get to London, they don't even need a plane to get to London. They've got that blimp, their ego. The blimp will take them over to London, and they'll be on their way. Now, final point. Let's go now to Nashville, Tennessee. That's where all the hipsters are moving. Nashville, Tennessee. That's where the cool people are in the South. And that's where Joe Burrow and the Bengals were. Now, Joe Burrow got the big contract. Joe Burrow got paid. And since that contract was filed with the NFL league office, the Bengals have been played by Joe Burrow. They're probably wondering, what did we do here? My God, Joe Burrow, who had been so good, has been so horrific here. Burrow threw for just 165 yards. The Bengals had to settle for a field goal on their opening drive, and that was the only points they scored the entire game. They could not even get in the red zone as they stumbled and bumbled the rest of the game. And the Tennessee Titans, who have been okay at home and pretty bad on the road, but Tennessee wins 27-3. Derrick Henry went over 120 yards, had a touchdown for the Titans. They're 2-2. The Bengals dropped to 1-3. And that's where the story is. And the story here is Jamar Chase. There's one soundbite of Jamar Chase here who went nutso on the reporters. There was a brief soundbite, but Jamar Chase expressing his frustration with the offensive blues, the lack of production. He declared that he believes he is open on every single route or route. He said, quote, "I'm open. I'm always effing open," is what he said to a Cincinnati TV station. And then he said, "Excuse my profanity. Sorry," was what he said. So that was the money quote from Ja'Marr Chase. In fact, just to prove I'm not lying about that, we have the audio. So if you have the audio and you're in radio and you want to play the audio, you play the audio. So let's go to the audio tape.
I'm open. I'm always open. Excuse my profanity.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. We bleeped it, so it's all good. We bleeped it. So how are things going for Ja'Marr Chase and the Cincinnati football team at this particular point? Well, I think that soundbite sums it up right there. That sums it up right there. We are at essentially the quarter pole mark of the season, the race for the Lombardi. And currently Cincinnati is looking up at a lot of tuchuses. They're looking up at a lot of tuchuses because of where they find themselves at this point. They did not expect them to be in this territory. The Cincinnati offense is approaching the horse and buggy territory. When you think about, we played 4 games. I believe they have 4 touchdowns in 4 games. We haven't seen a Bengal offense this bad in a generation. And they've had some bad offenses, but you got to go back to the early 2000s to find an offense more inept than the Bengals offense right now. And keep in mind, Ja'Marr Chase was so cocky. He was so sure of himself coming in and so confident about the Bengals and how good they were. Remember, we talked about this during training camp, at the end of training camp. Ja'Marr Chase said, "I think that Joe Burrow should sit out the first 4 games of the regular season. That we're fine. We're fine. He shouldn't show up till week 5. Just let him sit out. He'll get healthy." Like, you think he'll just magically all of a sudden get healthy. But Joe Burrow hasn't been practicing much, and he's been playing in the games and not well in the games. The Bengals don't have a backup quarterback. They got one guy, and that's Joe Burrow, so they're putting him out there, and he's essentially been a decoy. Joe Burrow, as the starting quarterback for the Bengals, has been a decoy. How's that working out? Don't ask. Not good at all. But you look at the Bengals here and what they have been able to do or not do on offense, and it reminds me of a member of the Fox Sports Radio Alumni Association, Jim Moore, because the Bengals, they could not do diddly-poo on offense, and it was another disgraceful performance. And if you think this team right now is going to the playoffs, you've lost your bloody mind.
We couldn't do diddly-poo offensively.
Yeah. The Bengals should adapt a different stance. I think this was Joe Madden, who's been blackballed out of baseball because he didn't follow the nerds. But Joe Madden was try not to suck. The Bengals offense should try not to suck at this point. Right now they do. Boy, are they bad. They're almost as bad as when Justin in Cincinnati calls up to play a game show completely, his mind is mush. It doesn't go very well. Anyway, Cincinnati, 14 first downs. They had 211 yards, an anemic 2 of 9 on third down against, I would say, an average Cincinnati defense. Their pass defense in Cincinnati, not particularly great. They have some issues in the secondary. Of course, when the opposing quarterback just throws the ball within 5 yards, either behind or ahead of the line of scrimmage, I would think that would be pretty easy to defend. Not that I ever played in the NFL. What do I know? I just do the overnight show here. But if you go into the game convinced that the opposing quarterback cannot complete passes down the field, I think you're in pretty good shape there, that you just have to defend around the line of scrimmage.